Well, dearly beloved, here we are once again in the book of Daniel. If you take your Bibles and turn to chapter 6, this is a very familiar text. I'm quite sure most, most of you have read Daniel 6, Daniel and the Lion's Den. Babylon has been overthrown, and now Darius of the Medes is in charge, and he's setting up his administration in his new kingdom. And that's where we will begin. Daniel chapter 6, verse 1 to 3. It pleased Darius to appoint 120 satraps to rule throughout the kingdom, with three administrators over them, one of whom was Daniel. The satraps were made accountable to them, so that the king might not suffer loss. Now Daniel was so distinguished himself among the administrators and the satraps by his exceptional qualities that the king planned to set him over the whole kingdom. Now, I'm reading this out of the New International Version. Daniel is a man of sterling character. Darius probably to talking among the people there that Daniel is somebody special. So he sets Daniel over the whole administrative branch of his government. He's what we would call the CEO. Can you imagine this? A Hebrew captive, top dog in a pagan kingdom. But this is not something new to Daniel. Remember, he has survived two kings when Babylon was ruling. And now he's serving another king, a pagan king, who sees these special qualities in Daniel. You know what I think? When you follow God, there's something about you that lifts you above the rest. And this is the way it's been with Daniel ever since the beginning. Remember, after this 3-year trial, him and his three friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they were raised up to have positions of honor. And it's happening to Daniel once again. But we're going to soon see that this elevation is going to bring problems. Verses 4 and 5, still in chapter 6. At this, the administrators and the satraps tried to find ground for charges against Daniel in his conduct of government affairs, but they were unable to do so. They could find no corruption in him because he was trustworthy and neither corrupt nor negligent. Finally, these men say, "We will never find any basis for charges against this man Daniel unless it has something to do with the law of his God." Now, we know in modern politics that when people run for a political office, they leave themselves open for examination. I mean, a fine tooth comb examination. They look under every rock, peek under rugs, open up closets. They want to find something negative. Same thing these people are doing. They're looking for something negative to say against Daniel. You know how it is. When you're crooked, you look for somebody to join you. But they couldn't find anything against Daniel. Why? Because God knew that Daniel would honor him. So God honored Daniel, lifted him up to a place of prominence, and gave him a squeaky clean record to go with it. But these men aren't going to give up too easy. Oh no, they've got to do something. Perhaps they can find something that Daniel is doing according to God's law that might conflict with the law of the Medes. That's the only loophole that they could possibly find. But guess what? God closes the loopholes. But they won't give up. Go to verse 11. These men went out as a group to the king. And here's what happened. Verse 6. So these administrators and satraps went as a group to the king and said, "May King Darius live forever." That was a common greeting in those days. The royal administrators, prefects, satraps, advisors, and governors have all agreed. Have they? Daniel, he didn't agree. There were probably others, but they want to give the king the impression that this is a group thing. It's not something that one or two people came up with. Well, let's see what happens here. Have all agreed that the king should issue an edict and enforce the decree that anyone who prays to any god or human being during the next 30 days, except to you, your majesty, shall be thrown into the lion's den. Now, your majesty, issue the decree, put it in writing so it cannot be altered in accordance with the law of the Medes and Persians, which cannot be repealed. So King Darius put the decree in writing. He's some pretty shrewd men. They come to the king, flatter him, appeal to his ego, and it worked. And you notice they made it for a very short period of time, only 30 days. See, if they made a long period, 6 months or a year, king might have had second thoughts. Because as you read, when that law was signed, according to the Medes and the Persian code, it could not be changed by anyone to include the king. It was set in stone, and these men knew it. And they baited the king. He took it, hook, line, and sinker, and now he has signed a decree that he cannot change. And you'll see in just a bit why they made it like that. Verse 10. Now Daniel learned that the decree had been published, went home to his upstairs room where the window was open toward Jerusalem. 3 times a day he got on his knees and prayed, giving thanks to his God, just as he had done before. Going back in time, when Solomon dedicated the temple, part of his prayer was this: that the people were ever captured by an enemy, that they, in time of distress, would always turn their face toward Jerusalem where the temple was, and that's how they would pray, toward Jerusalem, the temple, or the temple represented the presence of God. And even though Daniel was a captive, he was well aware of the decree by the king. He still followed his habit of prayer toward Jerusalem 3 times a day, and nothing would shake him. Well, this is right up these characters' alley because they're looking in the window and they're seeing him pray. This is just what they wanted. Verse 11. Then these men went as a group and found Daniel praying and asking God for help. So they went to the king and spoke to him about his royal decree. Did you not publish a decree declaring that during the next 30 days, anyone who prays to any god or human being except you, your majesty, will be thrown into the lion's den? Hey, you said it, king. We're just reminding you. The king answered, the decree stands in accordance with the law of the Medes and the Persians, which cannot be repealed. So you see, the king is well aware of the meaning and the penalty that's associated with breaking a decree. And even he, regardless of what he thinks, he can't change it. He said, yeah, I understand what I wrote. Then they want to turn the screws a little bit. Then they said to the king, Daniel, who is one of the exiles from Judah, paid no attention to you, your majesty, or to the decree you put in writing. He still prays 3 times a day. Now notice, they don't say Daniel, one of your administrators, Daniel, one of your top people who is supposed to be watching your back. They remind the king that he's an exile from Judah. In other words, he's low man on the social ladder as far as